we looked at the impact of an experience as an entrepreneur on your future career. Now, why is this an important question? We see more and more people becoming self-employed, also in the Netherlands. But we also know that about 50% of all self-employed stop being self-employed and go back to a job in wage employment after roughly 5 years. And we know much less about the effect of the experience as an entrepreneur on your future career. So we looked at a group of 65,000 employees in Belgium. 50% of those always stayed in wage employment during the sampling timeframe. However, the other 50% started in wage employment, became self-employed, and then went back to wage work at some point. And we compared their wages before and after entrepreneurship. Before, we see no differences. However, afterwards, we see a substantial penalty for the former self-employed. So 60% of this gap can be explained because entrepreneurs make different work choices than the non-entrepreneurs. So they start working more part-time, for example. However, we also see that the remaining 40% is due to differences in the hourly wage rate. And so that begs the question, so why is that? Now, what we observe is that employers are a little bit insecure about whether former entrepreneurs will fit into the company, whether they will not go back to self-employment, for example. And so they will assign them to lower ranked, lower paying jobs, and entrepreneurs cannot catch up because they cannot promote faster than non-entrepreneurs, for example. So that's why we see the persistent effect. So what are the implications for maybe future entrepreneurs? Well, first of all, we know that on average, the returns to entrepreneurship are not so good, right? So we know that the median entrepreneur earns less than the median non-entrepreneur. However, we see that there's also a wage penalty or an earnings penalty after entrepreneurship. So these findings show that people should think twice before becoming an entrepreneur. What are the implications for managers or employers? Well, we see that the effects are driven due to uncertainty from the employers about the fit of the entrepreneurs in their company. However, we also know that entrepreneurs are very valuable. They have different skills than non-entrepreneurs. For example, entrepreneurs are more jacks of all trades, whereas non-entrepreneurs are more specialists. And these skills can be very valuable in many employment settings. So, in fact, hiring former entrepreneurs offers an opportunity to employers to hire rare skills. However, maybe to reduce the risk about the fit, employers could, for example, offer temporary contracts to test whether the former entrepreneur really fit into their company. So finally, what are the implications for policymakers? Well, we see in many Western European countries, also in the Netherlands, a lot of policy initiatives to promote entrepreneurship. However, these policies often forget to highlight the potential downsides of entrepreneurship and maybe push people into entrepreneurship who should not really be entrepreneurs, who do not really understand the risk trade-off there is to become an entrepreneur versus staying in wage employment. And our findings highlight that this is an important decision people need to take carefully. To conclude, we might need a change of culture. In many countries, also in the Netherlands, we see a stigma of failure, where you try, you fail, and you get penalized. However, if we look at, for example, to the US, we see that failure does not have a stigma, but actually becomes a badge of honor. You fail, you tried, you learned something. And maybe that's the culture change we also need here.